Good afternoon, dear students, dear viewers. Nice to meet you online. And as you know, according to the decision of the Cabinet of Ministers of Azerbaijan Republic, all classes have been cancelled in our country, including at our university. In spite of it, we are using ADAUTV's opportunities, and each day we deliver 6 lectures. Up to now, 48 lectures are given by our staff, faculty members, and we think that it contributes to the education system at our university. And also I would like to thank our team behind of camera, a few people each day staying here and delivering lectures, and they support us. And as you know, COVID-19, it's a pandemic. To fight this pandemic, relevant actions are taken by our government, and we hope that this problem will be solved as soon as possible, and we will see you face to face and not online. So just stay at home and follow the certain rules in order to keep yourself safe and healthy. Today's our topic is agricultural financial policy, agricultural subsidies, which is third year students of English economics program. What we are understand when we say agricultural finance, we will discuss the following questions. First question is about the essence, importance of state financial policy in the agricultural sector. As you know, development of agricultural sector significantly depends on financial situation of agricultural enterprises and the farmers. And as you know, agricultural sector plays an important role in our country in order to diversify economy and to develop non-oil sectors. So we will focus on financial indicators of agricultural enterprises, their incomes. Second question is about agricultural loans, its impact on the financial condition of agricultural enterprises in Azerbaijan. Not only in Azerbaijan, also we will discuss other selected countries, their experiences. Next one is the tax incentives in agriculture. As you know, since 1999, according to the decree about acceleration of agricultural reforms in Azerbaijan, agricultural producers are free of taxes excluding land tax, and each 5 years this period of time is extended by the decree of the president. And the last time in 2019, in January, this period extended up to 5 years until 2024. So next question is about direct subsidies, or sometimes we say direct payments, which is very popular in our country as well. And indirect subsidies, also as a part of the subsidies, we will discuss agriculture insurance problem. So let's start. What's the agricultural finance? Is a provision of the multiple types of services dedicated to support both on-farm and off-farm. And this situation significantly depends from land to table, all value chains of value chain. So it includes input provision, production, distribution, wholesale, and processing and marketing issues. So why we try to improve financial situation in agricultural sector? Because from the food security point of view, from the food safety point of view, it's very important sector, and it has no an alternative rather than other sectors. And around 48% of population live in rural areas in Azerbaijan. 55% of total land is arable. 38% of population live employed in this sector. So that's why to increase a share of agricultural sector in total GDP, it's an overall goal of agricultural policy of the government in agricultural sector. So if you look share of agricultural sector, not agriculture, it's a sectoral structure of GDP in Azerbaijan. In 2018, 4.3% of GDP was produced in agricultural sector, industry 44.2%, and other sectors. And as you know, if we compare 55% of land, 48% of rural population, 38% of employed people in agriculture, it's small amount. That's why government agriculture policy is aimed to increase share of this sector in total economy, national economy. So this is a sectorial structure again for 2018, we see here 44.2% generated by industrial sector, 5.3% from agricultural, fishery, and the forestry sector, 8% from construction sector, 7.9% it's from transport and communication, 7.8% from net taxes, and 26.8% from other sectors. It's not a share of agricultural sector is not low only in Azerbaijan, also in other countries. If you look at this map, especially dark colored countries, in these countries agricultural has a significant share. For example, in African countries it varies between 21 and 56%, but especially in developed countries it's very low. For example, in the United States it's less than 1.6%, and other countries, for example in Russia, it's between 1.6 4.5%, and the other countries. In general, in developed countries, the share of agricultural sector it is up to 1 to 2%. If you look, European Union, it covers 28 countries and 500 million of population. In 2018, the agricultural sector contributed 181.7 billion euros, but its share was 1.1% in total GDP of the Union. So what's the reason why share of agricultural sector lower in total economy rather than other sectors? Not because of less development of the agricultural sector, it's a rapid development in other sectors rather than this sector. So that's why acceleration of agricultural rate in the country, it is main goal of the agricultural financial policy of the government. So financial condition of agricultural enterprise significantly depend on amount of and interest rates of the loans, tax rates and regulations, subsidies, subventions and grants, subvention, price of inputs and the price of outputs. So as you know, agricultural sector has own features. One of them is a seasonality, and we have a certain period of time which we produce, and we have a certain period we spend money and the resources, and that's why production period and expenditure period doesn't coincide and doesn't fit each other. That's why we have very much so high price volatility in agricultural sector and the other rather than other economies. Here we see profitability of agricultural enterprises in Azerbaijan in plant growing. It's from 2005 to 2018. For example, in 2018 it was a 9%, and in 2018 it was a 40.4%. What's the profitability? Profitability, it's a share of profit per unit of expenditure cost. How we calculate it? According to our methodology, profitability level, it's calculated share of net profit divided by total costs multiple 100. So let's just example, we have farm, we have a 10,000 manats profit, and we have a 50,000 expenditure costs. Multiple 100, it makes 20%. 20% means that per unit of expenditure cost we receive it 20 cents or 20 kapik profit. And it's a very useful indicator to compare results of activity of different farms. Let's say this is our first farm, second farm, earn it more, let's say 20,000. So at first glance, they earn it much more than first farmer, but its expenditure cost, it's 100,000 manats. So if we multiple 100, it makes 20%. So in spite, second farmer has a double profit rather than first farmer. The profitability level is the same. So that's why it is very important indicator to evaluate activity, assess activity of the agricultural enterprises. So in our case, as you see here, in animal husbandry, profitability level was lower than the plant growing in agricultural enterprises, around 6%. Why? Because, especially past years, because of the increasing food prices in the country, expenditure costs have increased so rapidly, why profitability low. But we should take into the consideration that agricultural enterprises definition doesn't cover entire country's agricultural sector, because as a result of agricultural reforms, as you know, 870,000 families have become landowners in Azerbaijan, and more than 85% of them, they are households and individual farms. Only 15% agricultural enterprises which cover joint stock companies, agricultural cooperatives, state-owned enterprises, etc. So that's why we cannot evaluate with these indicators all countries' situation. So we should compare profitability level with the interest rates of the loans. What's a loan? Loan, of course, it's a difference between our own capital and the required capital. So according to the banking law of the Republic of Azerbaijan, loan is a certain amount of money lent for a certain period of time, subject to extension, with collateral or without collateral, to repayment as per the underlying contract. So agricultural loan is regarded as an important instrument of the economic policy in most market-oriented developing countries. Of course, usually, mostly farmers, they try to get cheaper agricultural loans as low as possible, but sometimes it is not possible because banks have own interests, also government has own monetary policy. So if we have just interest rate, as you see here, we have a equilibrium price during the low interest rate, which we call it expansionary monetary policy, which it is a E1. And if we increase the interest loans, then supply curve shifts left side, and the products are getting expensive. So this is the equilibrium price, which is getting expensive. That's why interest rates of the agricultural loans significantly depends on monetary policy of central bank. Sometimes, in some countries, we call them national bank, or in the United States, Federal Reserve System, and the other banks. So what's causing in expansionary monetary policy? Of course, it's inflation. Inflation, it's overall price increase during a certain period, which happened in 1946 in Hungary. And as you know, banknotes and the money swept out by the people because of significant depreciation, and the money was becoming at the paper. So that's why value of currency significantly depend on central bank's monetary policy and its measures. So let's start how banks are working. So we have two types of the people. Some of them have more extra money, some of them need money, and banks are playing moderator and facilitates this process. They receive as a deposit from the savers to the bank, and then banks make loans to investors. And each step has own price premium, and each step has own interests. If bond market is not developed, then interest rates usually higher. If bond market developed, they compete. Bond market and the loan market or credit market, they compete each other. So that's why interest rates of agricultural loans also significantly depend on bond market development in the country. So let's discuss about why banks are not so much interested in agricultural sector, because of this sector more related with the climate condition, also perishable nature of production, also other specific features. So imagine yourself, you are a bank owner and you have money and you have different options. Probably you will invest your money to the sectors which have a lower risk. Usually agricultural sector is considered one of the high-risk sectors, especially during the climate change condition in the world. So that's why we compared interest rates in different regions of Azerbaijan. Its average, it was 13.6% of interest rate, but in the regions it's different. For example, some regions higher, some regions is lower. It depends on risk factors and the number of banks and the loan conditions. So we studied sectorial breakdown of loans. As you see, in 2019, according to the data of the Central Bank of Azerbaijan, 15,298.2 million loans made for agricultural sector, total economy. Out of it, 543.2 million lended to agricultural and the processing sector. But unfortunately, it's a 3.6%. Of course, compared to the previous year, the amount increased, but still it's not in insufficient level. So it's not a problem in Azerbaijan. We have looked at different countries. It's in selected countries, such as UK, United Kingdom, share of agricultural loans in total loans, it's more than 3.5% according to statistical data. In Germany, it's around 3%. France, it's 2.5%. Euro area, it's more than 2%. Poland, less than 2%. Kyrgyzstan, it's 0.5%. Ukraine, it's around 0.5%. So that's why, in general, issue less interest in agricultural sector of private banks. Especially private banks, for example, this is the structure of loans by types of credit organization in 2020 by 1st of February, according to the data of Central Bank of Azerbaijan, 81% of credits, loans made by private banks, only 3% by non-bank credit institutions. So state-owned banks made credit only 16%. Of course, under some measurements and some programs, low interest rate loans are made to farmers, such as low interest rate from the Entrepreneurship Development Fund under economy, agricultural development agencies under the Ministry of Agriculture. But still it's a problem. So what are the main problems of crediting of agricultural sector? Problems with collateralization of loans. It is clear that many banks require collateral to put in pledge something, maybe property, house, car, land, and other properties. Second is high risk and more climate related. We again discussed it. Producer price index and inflation level, depressed farm income, less developed agriculture insurance. So these are main problems of crediting in the agricultural sector. So what's main priority for the farms to put in pledge? The current period, of course, it's land. Land, it's very important. It's limited also, but some banks cannot accept land as a collateral because of its price. So how price set of land? It's set by according to the quality of land and according to the regulation, a normative price of land. It's a differential income from the group of agri-production. Quality should be multiple 100%. 100, this is the average lifespan of human race. But sometimes we see that actual price of land lower than its fixed price or normative price. Why? Because of not consideration all market factors during the assessment of land. For example, I have a land, it's with high quality, but there is no water. I have a land, but it's not closer to market. I have a land, it's not close to the infrastructure. So all these factors impact land, actual price of land. So that's why it's one of the challenges. So price volatility fluctuation. It's characteristic for agricultural sector. This is months and the producer price indexes of agricultural products. As you see, especially 5th, 6th, and the 7th month, prices are very low. It's a harvesting period, right? And the rest part of the year, it's going up, especially before the New Year or Nowruz holiday, and the prices are going up. So that's why it's one of the risks, considered risk. And taking into the consideration this character, price floor and price ceiling should be identified. And within this line, prices should be regulated. So how it is happen? Let's say we have first month, again, 6th month, and the 12th month. Okay? We have a price floor. We have a price ceiling. Price ceiling, it's for whom? Price ceiling, this is for consumers. And price ceiling, price floor is a price for the producers. So let's say we have a maximum price for wheat. It shouldn't be more than 400 manats, right, per ton. And the minimum price shouldn't be less than 200 AZN. So this is our for producers, this is our for customers, consumers, because both sides, consumers and the producers, they are citizens of our republic, and both interests should be protected by the government. Let's say during a certain period, let's say in 6 months, in June, prices is going down, right? And going up, lower than the price floor. So in this period, government can purchase this product, and other periods of the year, it's going up. And the government can interfere, we say intervention to the market, with the product which we purchased during this period. Also, seasonal customs duties is very important. Past year, by the government, used seasonal custom duties in order to protect domestic market from the unfair competition of foreign market. So that's why it is very important. It's very characteristic for agricultural products, and most products are very perishable and needed to store them and needed to keep them for a certain period. So usually we say, so prices to be high, if prices are higher, is it positive or negative? The producers say it's okay, but for consumers it's not okay, and the prices should be reasonable for both sides, and the government should control them. Taxes, it's, significant part of budget revenue comes from the tax. Third or fourth of our country's budget comes from taxes, and the tax plays an important role. And taxes have different functions. First of them, one of them is a fiscal function. Fiscal function means that, again, significant part of our state budget comes from the taxes. Next one is a redistributive. How we redistribute resources and the money, let's say income. Probably you know from the macroeconomics, we have a Lorenz curve. Lorenz curve, it's income. This is a population. We have a 20, 60, 80, and 100. It's a population groups. We have a 20, 40, 60, 80, and 100. This is the income. So it's not possible to keep straight line here, and there is no even distribution of income in between population. So if 60% of population's income belong to the 60% of population, it's straight line, we call it. But in reality, it is not possible, and everybody has not same amount of the money. So that's why usually how it happens, 60% of income belongs to 80% of population. Then we have like this curve, which is called Lorenz curve, and we mark it A, and if we, for example, how we should make it closer to the straight line, of course, through the income taxes. So that's why, let's say, in social-oriented countries or economies, Lorenz curve more closer to the straight line rather than other countries, such as in Norway model, it's close to the straight line rather than United States model. So that's why government using, through the using income tax rates, redistribute the income in different parts of the population. So next one is a regulating. Okay? Regulating, as we discussed before, since 1999, our agricultural producers are free of the taxes. Its purpose to regulate the economy, to diversify economy, and to invest in agricultural sector. If we don't pay to the state budget as a farmer, our money stays at our pocket and we reinvest to our enterprise. Next is controlling. Of course, it is one of the tools to control economy. Next one is promoting. Again, it's stimulating related with the regulation function. So, what are farmers paying at our country? In our country, of course, they are free all taxes excluding land tax. They are free individual income tax, tax on the profit, value add tax, exercise tax, simplified tax, road tax, mining tax. What's the reason? Of course, because of to develop our country's economy. When this decision was made in 1999, and the situation was completely different, economic situation was completely different rather than today. And that period, state budget of Azerbaijan was 500 million manats. Now for the 2020, it is more than 24 billion manats. And it was a great contribution to development of agricultural sector in our country. So farmers, just they pay land tax, which is very small amount per hectare. How land tax is calculated? Land tax rate, it's this tax rate on the agricultural land, it is calculated per point or quality point 0.06 manats. So it's very small amount, and according for taxation, lands are categorized by its quality. There are 4 categories, as I know. For example, first category has 100 points, second category has 80 points, third category has 60 points, and you need to multiple 0.06, and it makes your land tax per hectare. If we look different countries, unlike Azerbaijan, in many countries taxes are available and the farmers are paying taxes, such as OECD. It's an organization of economic cooperation and development which covers 34 countries, especially developed countries. And just you need to visit this website of this organization, you may see that all farms, they pay income tax, property tax, tax on goods and services, environmental tax. Also, they have a tax incentives for research and development and innovation. It's one of the important issues. As you know, according to our legislation, innovation, research and development equipment, laboratory materials, etc., they are free of imported taxes in our country. So it's a good advantage for innovation-driven, develop innovation-driven agriculture economy in our country. So what subsidies? In general, we are talking about subsidy, donation, subvention. According to the budget system of law or budget system of the Republic of Azerbaijan, there are such definitions. We have a donation. Donation funds donated to the local budget to regulate the incomes and the expenditures. If your expenditure higher than your income, the government pays and donates it. It's a donation. Grants, it has 2 sources, external and domestic sources. Subvention and the subsidies. In general, what's the difference between subsidy and subvention? Subvention, it is a little bit restricted, and you should use it certain period of time for certain purposes and goals. If you don't use it, and you should pay back. Unlike subvention, subsidy, it's donated from the state budget to the local budgets. For example, in our country, government pays from the state budget a lot of subsidies paid to farmers, and they are not obliged to use for the agriculture purpose, but they are stimulated. We will discuss it later. So agricultural subsidy, it's a free financial assistance to agricultural producers to cover their expenses, which is allocated from the state budget. Actually, subsidy in agricultural sector started in 1999, which we freed taxes in agricultural sector. It's called indirect subsidy. So in general, subsidies are divided direct and indirect, which we pay cash or farmers receive directly. They are direct subsidies, for example, tax incentives, some discounts, low interest rates, indirect subsidization of export processes. They are called indirect subsidization. So subsidy is not a single financial source of agricultural producers. So what's the impact of subsidy to equilibrium price? If you look at here, we have a supply curve. It means that market supply pre-subsidy, it means without subsidy, and we have subsidy after the subsidization process. So with the subsidy, consumer pays P2, it's a price level P, and the producer receives P2. P2 means it's this price level plus their subsidy. If farm subsidies are eliminated, then market price rises the original. It means that supply curve shifts left side and equilibrium price is going up. Today, modern world, is not possible to imagine agricultural sector without subsidization. If you look structure of European Union budget, in state budgets, in unions budgets, revenue, share of agricultural tax, it's 2.5%. But more than 40% of expenses, it's directed to agricultural sector in order to keep population in rural areas, in order to keep farming. So according to FAO, Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations, subsidies are categorized. It's a direct financial transfers. Second, services, indirect financial transfers, such as, for example, low cost for irrigation water, some services. Intervention with both short and long-term effects, and non-interventions. We mostly concentrate on direct and indirect subsidy services, which is related with subsidies. So direct subsidies, it's, for example, it's a direct payment per hectare. We have hectares, and just we need the multiple per hectare of payments. Second is direct payment per unit of harvest. Third one, direct payment per head of animal. And last, the direct payment for export, etc. So since 2007 till 2019, agricultural subsidies in Azerbaijan mostly were given according to the area. As a result, harvested area of cereals increased. Subsidies per hectare causes extensive development. That's why government, especially Ministry of Agriculture, is trying to improve subsidization process and to move this process from the extensive development to the innovation development. Second, direct payment per unit of harvest. It's very important. In this case, farmers are interested to increase yield from 1 hectare or from 1 head of animal, rather than extending territory, cultivated territory. But regarding to WTO, World Trade Organization, there are some restrictions for subsidization process. So still Azerbaijan is not member of this organization because some disputable things. One of the issues is this process, the accepting us as a developing country status. So World Trade Organization regulation, developed countries have right to locate subsidies up to 5%. It's called de minimis, 5%. But for the developing countries, it's 10%. In this case, we are trying to be accepted, not as a developed country status, as a developed country status in order to support the agricultural sector in future. Export subsidies, and we have Direct export subsidies, it's strictly prohibited by the World Trade Organization. This is the payment difference between export price and the actual price of exported goods. So also we have services and direct financial transfers such as import quotas, export promotion support such as in Azerbaijan we have a branding of made in Azerbaijan, direct foreign investment restrictions, fuel tax exemptions, investment tax credit, different tax programs, special income deductions. So if you look European Union countries, there is a total subsidies, also out of it direct payments. For example, in Germany, it's a direct subsidy, it's up to 40%, out of it 30% it's a direct subsidy. Rest part countries, it's different. For example, in Finland, it's more than 50%, and more than 30% out of it, it's direct subsidies. So how are subsidies classified in Azerbaijan? According to the decree which was signed by the Mr. President in 27th of June in 2019 about the improvement of subsidization mechanism in Azerbaijan, subsidies are divided the following, subdivisions. And the subsidies in general divided plant growing subsidy, which is subdivided sowing, harvest, seed. Also animal husbandry subsidy, it's a calf, bee, and the silk. So just let's explain each of them. Sowing subsidy, it's given per hectare of land, and how it is calculated. We need a base amount. What's the base amount? It's a fixed amount which was identified by the Subsidization Council under the Minister of Agriculture. It's 200 manats. Okay. So multiple crop ratio. What's a crop ratio? Of course, each crop has own expenses. And before, how the farmers receive their subsidy, let's say per hectare, cereals need 300 manats per hectare, right? 300 manats per hectare. And for potatoes, producers 3,000 manats per hectare. And both of them receive the same amount of subsidy, 50 manats, right? 50 manats. And it was very small amount for. That's why government decided to improve and the subsidization mechanism, and the crop ratios were set. For crop ratio for wheat, it's 1, right? 1. So we have a 15 hectare of land, right? So we should receive 3,000 manats subsidies from the government. So let's see crop ratios. It's grain. Again, it's 1. It's 200 manats. Saffron, it's 400 manats. Sunflower, 200 manats. Tobacco, 1.4 points. It's 280 manats. Cotton, 1.1. It's 220 manats, etc. And also grape, for example, in order to stimulate intensive orcharding in Azerbaijan or vineyard, the government put more points for the vineyards. For example, it's 3 points. So if you have a 5 hectare of land, right, 5 hectare of vineyard, 200 should be multiple 3 and multiple 5, right? 5 hectare. So this is again 3,000 manats. 3,000 manats. Okay. So for the orchards, with an intensive way, it's 3.5, which makes 700 manats. It's a huge amount. And for the following year, this year it's 1.2 manats, 240 manats. For the intensive shaded fruit orchard, this is the first year since orchard has been laid, it's 800 manats per hectare. And the next one is other crops, orchards, again, it's other orchards, 1.2, it's 240 manats, and the berries, 100 manats. So product subsidy, which is intensifying yield, it's applied cotton, tobacco, and the sugar beet. Why only these products? Because it is measurement and the monitoring of the subsidies is very important issue, and compared to other products, to other crops, to monitor and to calculate production amount, it is very easy in cotton, tobacco, and the sugar beet, because unlike vegetable or wheat, cotton marketing channel, we have a cotton producer, cotton processing enterprises, and it is very to get two data from different sources and to compare it. And the tobacco again and the sugar beet. So as a result of more attention cotton production in Azerbaijan, past year the amount so rapidly increased compared to previous year. Unlike in 2019, in spite cultivated area was a little bit less compared to 2018 because of increasing yield, which we got 2.7 ton per hectare. It was a huge amount. As a result, production increased. And in total export of agricultural products, significant share. Also cotton production, it's a labor incentive. It provides more jobs in rural areas rather than other less labor incentive sectors. So seed subsidy, it's also available in Azerbaijan. First and the second reproductive seed and the seedlings produced in the country subsidized. Also ratios and also quotas. If we needed to calculate, we need a base amount seed ratio, quantity of seed, total amount of seedlings, and altogether. Also there is a quota for getting subsidies. So animal subsidy, as you know, 55% of animal gross agricultural output belongs to animal husbandry produced in this sector, and that's why to increase yield in animal husbandry sector is a priority. That's why government decided to give, not decided, already is given, 100 manats per calf, which is as a result of artificial insemination and embryonic transfer. According to the new regulation, embryonic transfer added to the system in order to stimulate in this sector. So if you look at milk yield of cows and buffaloes in Azerbaijan, in 2010, from per head we got 1.2 thousand milk production, but in 2018 it's 1.6 tons. Compared to many countries, it's still low, but we think and we hope that we will achieve more positive results in the coming future. So bee subsidy, it's one of the priority sectors in agricultural sector. It's a 10 manats per beehive, which is given by to beekeepers. And the sericultural subsidy is a 5 Azerbaijan manat per kilogram for the wet coconut. So indirect subsidy, which is 70% of mineral fertilizers and the biohumus is subsidized by the government. It's one of the ways subsidization of agricultural sector. It's very positive and one of the advantages of for the farmers. And the 60% of discounts for imported animal breeds, which is also very useful for our farmers. And the 40% discount for agricultural equipment, especially the depreciation costs, which are fixed costs, and if we have a small amount, our expenditure. That's why, taking into consideration less cooperation in the agricultural sector, this discount is very useful, especially for small and medium-sized farms. So, 10% more subsidies to agricultural cooperatives. As you know, it's a problem and challenge. In some cases, main factor of agricultural is agricultural cooperation, agricultural cooperative. As a result of land reforms, again, 85% of total farmers, and they their activity is individual and they don't cooperate. Of course, by the initiation of the Ministry of Agriculture, some cooperatives are set up, have been set in different regions of Azerbaijan, but still their number is not in sufficient level, and it also depends on the decision of farmers. There is somehow fear which remains from the kolkhoz period of Soviet time. And when we suggest, sometimes when we suggest to farmers that please cooperate, they think that this is a kolkhoz system, but cooperation, it's voluntarily uniting resources, knowledges, and in order to provide competitive production. That's why, in order to promote cooperation in agricultural sector, 10% extra subsidies are given to our farmers. It's also very positive for future cooperation. So what's the 25-75? Farmers, before farmers received their all subsidies in cash, and they had the opportunity to use different directions, but now farmers may receive, for example, if farmer received 3,000, 25% out of it, it's cash directly, and the 75% it is a non-cash, and they may use for mineral fertilizers and other agricultural purposes. So it's one of the positive improvement in the subsidization mechanism of in our country. So farmers, they receive their subsidies from the banks, and each farm has a banking card. Also, the advantages current subsidization mechanism, farmers should be registered. And the registration is very important, not only for the subsidization process, also forecasting the market to give certain prognosis, to estimate future prices, supply and the demand. That's why also we are using satellites of Azerbaijan government, Azerbaijan state, and its opportunity for the monitoring and the evaluation of subsidization process. So the advantages of existing agricultural subsidy system in Azerbaijan, it's intensive and innovation oriented, more interested in future farming, especially for cash, non-cash distribution, more transparent and regulated, more cooperation and integration driven. So how we monitor in our country, it's monitoring, it's one of the challenges for subsidy process, not only in Azerbaijan, in other countries. That's why in order to monitor and evaluate also subsidies, there are three sources of data. It's for the monitoring, it's a cross-comparing. It's an electronic declaration with a subsidy information system. Next one is a surface surveillance by using satellite and other technical facilities, and observation on the spot, and the DAIMs, which is state agricultural development centers in the regions and the district, they help this process. So what are main tax incentives in Azerbaijan, in agricultural incentives? Tax rebates since 1999. We have a tax rebates for imported input supplies such as agriculture equipment, fertilizer and breed animals. Direct low interest rate loans, discounts for animal breeds, fertilizers, agricultural equipment per unit of harvested cotton, subsidies, culls from artificial insemination, etc. So next issue is agricultural financial situation related with the agricultural insurance, especially during this period, which is climate change, some natural disasters happen. It's main risks in agriculture. It's a natural disaster, fires, plant disease and pests, infectious diseases, etc. And last year, agricultural insurance fund, also agricultural law adopted and established in Azerbaijan in order to promote agricultural insurance in the country. Especially, as you know, sustainable development goals, one of the goals of SDG, it's to combat climate change and its impact. One of the interesting statistics is that the global average temperature has increased by 0.85 degrees Celsius since 1880 to 2012. It's an ongoing process, and we feel its impact. Actually, we planned on climate change, its impact because of 9 component, and we will reorganize it in future. So the main tasks of the government in agriculture insurance determines the subject of insurance and insurance risks, determines the directions of the state policy in the field of agriculture insurance to adopt normative legal acts, take stimulating measures, and other things. So this is our references, and you may use it online, also available. Some books are available in our main library, and we are glad to answer your questions, and we are open to answer any your suggestions and questions. Please, any question? No question? Thank you very much for your attention. Stay at home, keep yourself safe and healthy.